Welcome back, college football fanatics. It's College Football with Sam, and today I am going to give you 5 reasons why the Ohio State Buckeyes will beat the Iowa Hawkeyes this Saturday. The Buckeyes opened up as a 23.5-point favorite. It's been bet down by sharps to about 20.5, and I honestly understand why, because I picked Ohio State to beat Iowa by a score of 30-17, with Iowa covering what I believe is a pretty sizable 20.5-point spread. If you would like the explanation behind that prediction from me, along with what I think is the critical matchup and a broad overview and analysis of both teams, click the link in the pinned comment, and you can also visit the video via the link at the top right corner of your screen. That will lead you to my Ohio State versus Iowa preview and prediction video. But that's all I'm going to say about that, and we're going to get into my 5 reasons why I'm picking Ohio State to win this game. And if you want to get notified when I release my 5 reasons why Iowa can pull off what would be a stunning upset, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you can get notified when that comes out very soon in the next 48 hours. But without further ado, let's dive right in. I think that Ohio State's dominant wide receivers, who also have great quickness, acceleration, athleticism, and have improved at downfield blocking, will be a big reason why, my most critical reason why, Ohio State will win this football game. A key for Iowa to beat Ohio State is not just to run the ball effectively to score points, but also run the ball effectively to keep Ohio State's offense off the field, because Iowa has had some issues stopping opposing passing attacks. Iowa's defense, I still think, is a near elite to elite defense. I do believe that, and I think they'll get better as the year goes on. But look at their passing offense numbers right now. They are allowing currently 7.7 yards per completion. That's their passing offense. In comparison, on passing defense, they are allowing 11.6 opponent yards per completion. That's 63rd. Their opponents are passing for about anywhere from 4 to 4.5 to 5 yards on average more per completion than they are. And their passing offense is massively upgraded compared to last season. And Iowa's allowing 7.2 opponent yards per pass attempt. Most of this is on big plays, by the way. A lot of it on busts, whether it's against Iowa State or Troy or Minnesota was able to get some downfield passing action, and on the Hawkeyes, they just have not been the same in defending the pass as they have been in really the past 2-3 seasons. They've improved at forcing turnovers, both interceptions and fumbles, and I do think that this secondary will improve throughout the year. Will it improve enough to where they can lock down Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, and Carnell Tate? Probably not, and I wouldn't pick the best secondary in college football to lock down these Ohio State wide receivers. This is another year where Ohio State's wide receiver room, if healthy, is one of the best, if not the best in the country, potentially one of the best in Ohio State football history. And that's what you get with Brian Hartline and Ryan Day and their recruiting and development. Right now, Jeremiah Smith has 19 receptions for 364 yards and 5 touchdowns. Overall, these receivers, the best 3 on the team, have 1,000 receiving yards, 1,002 to be exact, 8 touchdowns, 54 receptions. They're awesome. And again, they're quick. They run good routes. They do well at catching, holding on to the football. They are everything that you want. They are the epitome of the ideal, not just college football, but NFL wide receiver group. And that's a testament to Ohio State and, again, to Brian Hartline. So how is Iowa going to stop this dominant and quick wide receiver core? Well, I don't think they can. I think at best they're going to slow them down, and that's still going to allow touchdowns and yardage, and I think that's the biggest reason why Ohio State will win this game, is the mismatch that Ohio State's wide receivers have in favor of themselves over Ohio State's defensive, or Iowa's defensive backs, rather. Ohio State's defensive backs, by the way, are just as good as Iowa's DBs, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But before we get on to reason number 2, which is Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, I do want to remind you all, yes, you watching, to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, comment 5 reasons why you believe. Yeah, 5 reasons why you think Ohio State will win this game. I can't imagine any of you think it's impossible for them to win this game, so I won't say what I usually say about how I want you to try and imagine Ohio State winning this game. That's the case for some matchups. Like, many of you probably think Iowa has no chance, which I disagree with. I think they have a chance. It's small, but that's why I'm making the 5 reasons why videos for both Ohio State and Iowa, not just one of them. But comment reasons why you believe Ohio State will win this game in order from most important to least important, and also join our Discord server via the link in the description and down below in the pinned comment, where we have a dedicated Ohio State football and Iowa football thread, dedicated threads to all 18 Big Ten teams. You won't want to miss it. So thank you very much, and let's get back to this video. Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson make up the best running back duo in the entire country. Alone by themselves, they may make the best running back room in the country, despite the fact that behind them there isn't much depth. If Judkins or Henderson were to go down, like one of them to have a season-ending injury, which I pray to God doesn't happen, then the production, I think, would drop off pretty substantially, especially if it were to be Judkins who goes down. Judkins is a back who's designed to get more carries. That's how he's built. That's his style of play, compared to Henderson, who's more of a exclusive home run hitter, though he has shown power ability this year and I think is in his best shape ever for a running back. But what they have is something that most running back rooms don't. You have 2 elite athletes who also have the ability to fall forward for extra yardage, and they can make something out of nothing. Both of them can. Ohio State's offensive line is better than it was last season. I don't know if it's elite yet, but from what I've watched, I don't think the offensive line is elite, and yet the rushing offense is. That is a sign of not only great scheming by Chip Kelly, but also these 2 running backs are so good that they can hide some issues that their offensive line has had, particularly with Josh Fryer and Tegra Shabola, based off of Pro Football Focus rankings. Combined, they have 88 carries, 666 yards, 9 touchdowns. All of that on the ground. They have not had a lot of action so far this year, which I think is wise. Through 4 games, the fact that Quinshon Judkins is barely averaging over 10 carries per game, Henderson isn't even averaging 10 carries per game, is smart. You want to rest up. You, in these blowout wins, don't want your best players to get injured. When you have a game against Iowa, who has an elite defense, against Oregon, who's on the road, could have an elite offense and has a lot of talent, against Penn State, who could be elite on both sides of the football, Michigan, who is your rival, who you haven't beaten since 2019, and you want to beat them, the assumed appearance in the Big Ten championship game, and then upwards to 4 playoff games, or 3 if they win the conference. It's a lot of big games that these running backs will be needed in if Ohio State is able to play in all of them, and they're definitely playing, in my opinion, in 3 or 4 of them, if not 5 or 6, because I think Ohio State's going to be a playoff lock. They're going to reach the college football playoff. But Iowa has historically struggled at stopping the run. They have been tested in facing Iowa State and Minnesota, but those 2 schools do not have anywhere close to the rushing attack that Ohio State does. Iowa, they want to control the game. They want to make it so that Ohio State's defense has to be honest, take some risks, maybe allow Cade McNamara to use his tight ends off of play action. Ohio State can basically do the same thing, except to a much greater degree because of the quality of athlete they have and the depth that they have as well. And Judkins and Henderson are a big part of this offense. They do wonderful things. They are both top 5 running backs nationally, in my opinion, or at bare minimum top 10. They are going to test this Iowa front. They're going to get some type of yardage. They won't be totally shut down. It's the same thing with the receivers. That will result in points, and there will be a limit for how many points Iowa can score because their offense is still limited. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is Will Howard, specifically his mobility. He is 72 of 105 on the season with 1,039 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, 14 carries for 36 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He's only been sacked once so far this season. Ohio State in total has only given up 3 sacks, and per Pro Football Focus, they actually lead the conference in pressure rate allowed. Like, they're the most efficient offensive line in terms of pass blocking. Now, that makes sense. Last season, Ohio State was better at pass blocking, way better than run blocking, and with how much they returned and the fact that they only brought in 1 transfer portal offensive lineman, that kind of makes sense that they'd have a similar, style that they did to last year's offensive line. They're just much better at everything. And a part of that, too, is not just improvements on the line itself, but the scheme Ohio State uses with Chip Kelly, a lot of RPO stuff. They have multiple plays in the same formation. They're very creative, and they've done a good job of trying to get the ball out quickly. After all, a lot of Ohio State's big plays this season have been screens or slants that Jeremiah Smith or Emeka Egbuka just take for big yardage against inferior opponents that don't have the athleticism or power that Ohio State does with their players. For Will Howard, an underrated aspect about him that separates him from every Ohio State quarterback under day outside of Justin Fields is his willingness to run. C.J. Stroud probably has the athleticism that Howard does, but he didn't want to run the football. The only time he did run the football consistently was against Georgia in the 2022 Peach Bowl, and his running threat was a big part of the reason why Ohio State was leading in that game and in a position to win at the end. Will Howard is willing to run, and they haven't showcased his rushing ability too much yet because they haven't needed to use it to win. And I think that if Ohio State and Iowa is a competitive game, later in the game, you will see Will Howard run the football. You will see Ohio State bring out more of their playbook, which I think they haven't revealed a ton yet. They want to save it for Oregon, Penn State, and their bigger opponents. And you already have Judkins and Henderson to deal with. You already have Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka to deal with, and Carnell Tate, who's emerging. Imagine having another rushing threat, because all of Ohio State's receivers can run the football effectively on end arounds. The 2 running backs are elite at running the ball, and you now have a quarterback who can keep it. That's a lot to deal with. And even though I love Phil Parker and I think that he is the best defensive coordinator in the country by a massive mile, by a massive few miles, and it's not even close, with the offense that Iowa has, some of the issues they have on defense, and more importantly, just a credit to Ohio State and all the talent they have and the coaching they have, the offense will be hard to deal with for Ohio State. It just will be. And I think that not only is Howard good at the short and intermediate pass as long as the offense is on schedule, he's really good at running. He's willing to put his head down, truck forward for extra yardage. You're not going to be seeing a lot of sliding from Will Howard if he needs to pick up yardage. And you got to give a credit to Chip Kelly and the staff for tailoring this offense to his needs. He really fits well into this offense, and you can see it with how he plays and how much he's improved so far. Some of it may be the fact that he hasn't, played much of anyone who can stop him. But so far, it looks like he has improved quite a bit from last year to this year. And some of it is the supporting cast and also the coaching, combination of both. But he's reason number 3 why I think Ohio State wins this game. Reason number 4 is a lockdown secondary. It struggled a bit against Michigan State, but it's similar to Iowa's in the sense that it's so talented that I'm going to give it some benefit of the doubt. Iowa's allowed just a few flukish long touchdown plays, not much else. It may not be that much of a concern. It may be overstated. I think it's the same thing with Ohio State struggles at DB against Michigan State, where Aiden Childs was averaging darn near 9 yards per pass attempt, more than 10 yards per completion, had a high completion percentage, looked like a efficiency monster against that secondary in the first half. I think it's just a part of Ohio State's conservative nature on defense, and now that the Big Ten has a higher amount of competent quarterbacks, you may see more of that happen against the Buckeye defense, where they allow more yardage per attempt, completion, maybe even more passing touchdowns than last year, where the Big Ten was objectively weaker at quarterback. Like, you didn't have... I don't know if anyone in the Big Ten this year is a J.J. McCarthy level QB. I would be inclined to say no, outside of maybe Drew Aller so far. But let's say that just like last year's Drew Aller or Talia Tagovailoa is the baseline that we're talking about. Last year, those quarterbacks were the second and third best in the Big Ten, I think, if memory serves me correctly. This year you have, well, Will Howard, you have Miller Moss, you have Dylan Gabriel, you have Drew Aller, you have Curtis Rourke, you have Luke Altmaier, you have Dylan Raiola, and there may be more quarterbacks that I'm missing from that list, like probably Billy Edwards, who are at that level of QB or higher. So even though the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now, I don't think is as good as the best quarterback in the Big Ten last year, there isn't the same top heaviness at the position. So Ohio State is on an average basis going to be facing way better passing offenses than they did last year. I mean, Aiden Childs has the talent of a J.J. McCarthy or of a C.J. Stroud. Like, he has that talent. Don't know if it'll come together. I'd highly doubt it would come together like it did with Stroud because, well, generational quarterback. But Childs is that talented, and he is not even close to the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now. But anyway, this is the best secondary, I think, in college football, as profiled in the preseason, and I think as the season goes on, it'll probably bore out to be that way. Maybe Iowa's could be better with some of the, well, talent and players they have, but this is up there. It's an elite secondary. It's highlighted by Denzel Burke, Caleb Downs, and Jordan Hancock. On the season, Ohio State has 3 interceptions, 13 passes defended. One of the picks, a pick 6, is by Gabe Powers, a backup linebacker. Right now, Jordan Hancock has 3 passes defended and a forced fumble. And you also have, well, Caleb Downs with a half sack, a pass defended, 14 total tackles. The secondary hasn't had to do all that much this season because really the first competent passing offense they faced was Michigan State. And Iowa's is not going to be as good as Michigan State. So they'll help make Iowa's offense one-dimensional, and consequently, Ohio State should stack the box and slow down Iowa's rushing attack. And finally, a near-elite defensive line. This is a defensive line that I teeter on saying they are elite or near-elite. I'm going to side with near-elite for now, but statistically, they do look very good. They're only allowing 63 rushing yards per game, and Ohio State as a team currently has 13 sacks on the season. I was impressed, I'm not going to lie, to a certain degree with what Ohio State did against Michigan State in stopping the run. At the same time, though, if you take out the sacks, and if you look in the first half when MSU was competitive, they were able to open up holes and run the ball on Ohio State's defense. I think part of that, again, is the conservative nature of the defense. This is a defense that is probably not going to be number 1 nationally in yards allowed per game. Maybe they are, but that's not their goal. Their goal is to just limit points, which is, well, that should be the goal of any defense. But they, I think, especially last year, took that to the extreme, where they were perfectly fine with allowing field goals and even allowing long drives as long as they didn't end up being touchdowns. And against Michigan, for example, last season, it killed them, but the defense was really not to blame for that Michigan game. Not whatsoever. And the defense this season so far is looking like one of college football's best. It's 10th per ESPN's efficiency metrics, and it is at the top of the nation in multiple statistical categories. For example, right now, Ohio State, opponents running them for 32.8 attempts per game, which is 43rd, and yet they only allow 1.9 yards per carry, 63 rushing yards per game. Their total defense is second. They only allow 197.8 yards per game and 3.3 yards per play. Again, a lot of that is because their competition has been terrible, but it's still impressive in spite of that. And they're only allowing 6.8 points per game and 0.112 points per play, which is first and second, respectively. The near elite defense is a big part of that. And I think that against Iowa, who has not faced a defensive line of this caliber all season long, that Ohio State's defensive line is going to be able to get some pressure on McNamara, stop some runs, probably allow some others due to Caleb Johnson and also the nature of this Iowa offensive line, but they will do enough to slow down Iowa's offense, to force some 3-and-outs. That will give Ohio State's offense more drives and opportunities to score, therefore leading to victory. Thank you all so much for watching. O-H-I-O. I think that's how you do it. I'm going to try and do team celebrations for each of these 5 reasons why videos to get into the, into the spirit of this type of video where I'm picking Ohio State to win. I'll be doing an Iowa celebration in the 5 reasons why Iowa will win this game video, and others that are similar to this. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman members. Thanks to Chris Lee and Carlo OH, Ismar, Tyler 9, Jolton Kush for being All-American members. And thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Shania Cockrell for being All-Conference members. Have a great day, guys. Go Hawkeyes, go Buckeyes, and check out my Discord server, Patreon page, and merchandise store via the links in the description and down below in the pinned comment. Have a great day. See you all soon.